Hi, welcome to another sports car story. Now we're driving the Sloc in the Isle of Man. We've recently moved to the Isle of Man, and we're driving the Sloc in the Triumph Stag, which is the first car that I've got that's passed the Isle of Man test, and it didn't pass with flying colours, but it passed. Got a few advisories. So I'm just so chuffed to be out driving it on a beautiful day. It's always sunny in the Isle of Man, forgot to say. It's always sunny here. Actually, it blew an absolute hoolie at the weekend. I think probably one of the biggest storms the island's ever had, according to a few of the proper Manx people. But so this road is fast becoming my favourite road on the island. It's called the Sloc, and I'll probably do a lot of recording on this road just because it is so epic. But I'm going to tell you about the Triumph Stag. Now, I'm not going to talk about this car so much because I've done that in a previous video. Do watch that. I'm going to talk about my whole history with stags, because this is actually the third stag that I've known over the... My brother and I managed to get a long-suffering dad to buy a stag in about 1976. I think it was 76, because the Triumph TR7 had just been launched. I think that's 76. So I remember seeing reviews of Triumph TR7, very futuristic. Not quite right, but very futuristic car. That's the sea pointing towards Ireland to the right. And so we're on the west coast, going down from about the middle of the island, down the west ridge of hills. So we managed to persuade my dad to buy a stag in 76, 77. And I remember going on holiday, 5 of us in a stag, to Lewin, Cornwall. Now, there's 3 kids in the back, which sounds like a squeeze, but the previous year we'd managed it in a Triumph Spitfire, which is basically child abuse. I don't know if you know what a Triumph Spitfire looks like. It hasn't really got a seat in the back, but we went on holiday to Cornwall from Bedfordshire in a Triumph Spitfire. It was a brand new car. I think that was L-Reg, I think. So that was 73. So we were a bit younger, I suppose a bit smaller to fit in the back, but absolutely crazy thing to do. So, yeah, I remember burbling around the villages of Bedford in that Triumph Stag. I think we had the usual head gasket problems. In those days, they didn't quite know what was going wrong with stags, but it was quite an old stag then. It was already 5 or 6 years old, which in those days was long enough to be rusty. Oh my God, there's actually somebody else on the Sloc. It's a tractor. Honestly, this is so epic. I really cannot say strongly enough, if you get a chance to come over to the Isle of Man, don't just think about the TT roads. There's plenty of others that are absolutely superb and beautifully surfaced as well. I mean, and if you're just driving like this, you don't have to worry about losing control, because this road can take a lot higher speed than this. Well, there's a nice smooth 80. Look at that. Not bad for an old girl. So yeah, we drove around the villages of Bedford in it, and I sat in the back. It was like a motorboat sitting in the back of a stag. And every opportunity when you're a kid, you sit up on the back of a stag holding the T-bar. So every time there's a car park or a long driveway or something like that, you're an instant tank commander. What a car for kids. Fantastic. Completely not allowed these days, but in those days, fair game. Not quite through town. I think my dad drew a line at that, but any quiet areas, yeah, we'd be up like a flash. And then my brother and I went on holiday with my granddad, and Dad rocked up in an Austin 1300. He bought a bigger house and had to sell the stag, so our street cred instantly disappeared with a rusty 1300, which, to be fair, Dad often did to us. Any street cred we had was often taken away, but that's good for you, I suppose, in the long run, not at the time. So that was that stag. A few little problems. The head gasket was fixed by the garage we bought it from, which is a back street garage. You had a lot of those in those days. So now I'm looking at the sea forward. That's to the south and west of the island. We're running down to the pointy bit in the south. But just extraordinary road. It takes my breath away. You know, I don't think I'll ever get tired of this. I wouldn't want to go over the side there because you'd roll for a bit, but try not to. Be a good camera if it happened though, as long as the cameras survive. Be a good YouTube video. So that was the first stag, and the second stag we managed to talk my dad into was 1980. I just passed my test, and we managed to persuade Dad to buy a stag from my mum. We bought a white one. The first one was blue, I think. Can't really remember, but the second one was white. And I remember having an absolutely blissful summer in that, with the had an 8-track stereo in it. And I'd passed my test, and Dad had managed to add me to the insurance. Much more people did that in those days. Oh my goodness, look at that. To drive it fast, you'd have to know this road pretty well. It's used for hill climbs and all sorts, but you'd have to know it quite well to be confident. And so I had a lovely summer driving around in a Triumph Stag. I remember my mates, I was driving along the embankment in Bedford, and my mates spotting me and literally diving into the back. Quite a dangerous manoeuvre, but sort of thing you do when you're 17, I suppose. And other mates roller skating in a line, holding on to the back of the stag and towing them along. Did that sort of thing quite regularly. But literally just burbling about. I mean, I did try and take off in it. My brother did a lot more humpback bridge takeoffs in a Fiat 127. The stag didn't really like that. Didn't really quite get off the ground, long travel suspension. But, my dad found a picture of my brother's car in about a foot off the ground. I think it's his first flight. He ended up in the RAF, but flying T-38, went into the USAF and everything, but his first flight was in a Fiat 127. My dad wasn't happy when he found that photo. And I remember going to school in it and parking in the staff car park and the headmaster drove in his Morris Minor, and I dropped the electric window, which in those days was very posh. "Good morning, sir." And the following day there was an edict that no kids were allowed to park in the staff car park. What a coincidence. But anyway, that stag was fabulous. Quite old then. It was sort of sagging to the right, and I remember driving out to Kimbolton in it with a few mates, and it was misfiring, and we had a look, and we could see that the distributor was cracked and falling apart. We put a bit of sellotape around it, and it seemed to work. So it was holding together really. And my dad did the same trick really. He sold it from under me when I wasn't around and bought me a Hillman Imp, which anybody from the US probably doesn't know what a Hillman Imp is, but it's rear-engined Mini Cooper type rival, but it was a very rusty car. It was undersealed up to the sills, and so I came down with a bump from my posh Stag to a Hillman Imp. But as I always say, any car better than no car. So that's my history with stags. 2 stags gone, and then this one, when I least really needed a stag, when my mate Stuart said I have to sell a stag. But anyway, that's another story. We've done a previous video in the Isle of Wight. But this stag now lives in the Isle of Man, and I'm going to drive the Sloc a lot in it. And who can blame me? And she passed a test the other day. On the Isle of Man, there's only one test when a car's imported, and at that point there's quite a rigorous test for it, and the old girl passed. A few advisories, but she passed, and I'll get the advisory seat too. Nothing serious, but It's really not had a test for a while, and you won't need a test now on the island. And I've bought a MAN number plate that just suits the era, 1970 type era. I'm not really interested in getting anything that's too appropriate to me. But yeah, lives on the island. And that's the end of the Sloc, and we're just coming up. We've got Port Erin and Port St Mary in front of us. So get over to the Isle of Man. You'll love it. And it's always sunny. Thanks for watching.